Welcome once again, everyone, to the Chicagoland Speedway. Race number 19 of the 36-race Sprint Cup schedule is just around the corner here in Joliet, Illinois, and that makes us just beyond the halfway mark of the season. The race to the chase is heating up, and we've already had some big news so far today concerning the last winner at this racetrack and also the man that drives that number 20 race car. One of the greatest things about coming here to Chicagoland is the race fans that come out here. You can see they're already with us here right behind. Look, even Jeff Gordon came out with us here. Hey, Jeff, he's won here before as well. And let's take a look at the menu, see what's coming up. We have a rare Thursday of racing for you here from the Chicagoland Speedway. Sprint Cup practice at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. Then we will see who goes and goes home at 6:30 Eastern Time. And then Sprint Cup qualifying at 8:30 wraps up the day's activities on speed. And as we mentioned, we've already had a big announcement concerning Tony Stewart and Joe Gibbs Racing. After more than a decade of racing for Joe Gibbs, Tony Stewart is leaving him as a driver, but joining him in the ranks of team ownership. He will become a 50-50 partner in Haas CNC Racing, making it Stewart Haas Racing, and that will take effect at the beginning of next year. For more on Smoke and his future, let's go to Bob Dillner. Bob?
Well, Johnny, it was a very exciting announcement today at Chicagoland Speedway with Tony Stewart becoming a new driver at a new team and a new owner all in one day. Very, very interesting, but it was a very delicate issue as well because, as we all know, he's been driving for Joe Gibbs Racing in the 20 machine for 10 years. He still had 1 year left on his contract. And today, Tony, very soft-spoken as he made the announcement in the press center.
Now, obviously, this is a huge day for me. It's, this is a huge turning point in my career, obviously, but I'm very proud today to be here and announce that myself and Joe Custer have, with the Haas CNC team, have merged and now have formed Stewart Haas Racing. That's where I'll be next year and hopefully for the rest of my life and my career in NASCAR racing. It was a huge decision-making process, obviously, something that was not made overnight. And every week, like we told you guys, this was a long process. This was not something that was easy by any means, and we did weigh our options heavily as far as what was available out there, what our options were, and the opportunity to have ownership in a race team was something that was, in my opinion, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I don't think an offer like this has ever been made in this series to a driver, and I don't know that an offer of this magnitude will be offered in the next year or two or down the road even. But very honored that Joe and his organization have welcomed me aboard, not only as a driver but as an owner, and really excited about our future at Stewart Haas Racing.
And so Tony Stewart becomes a 50% owner in that team, which, as John Roberts just told you, is called now Stewart Haas Racing. The deal was actually inked, Tony said, a couple weeks ago, but then it became a people issue. In fact, he said it was a very hard process to go through, and yesterday at Joe Gibbs Racing, they had a meeting with all the team and so forth to let them know of the news. And each team member lined up, shook Tony's hand. Obviously, some disappointed, but some very happy for Tony Stewart as he moves forward. One of the most difficult situations of all is the partnership between Tony Stewart and Greg Zipadelli. They've been together for 10 years, and it's a very sad day at the end of this year when they are to part. Tony addressed the situation.
It's kind of like a marriage, and not only is he's been there both professionally and like a big brother on the personal side, and that's something that relationship is very important to me, not only now but down the road. But that has been the single hardest part about this is having to think about that for the last 10 years I've had Greg's leadership and have had the security blanket and the peace of mind of knowing that Zippy's in charge of this and knows me better than 99% of the girlfriends I've ever had in my life, I think. So, having to make a change like that is something that, I'm not going to call it a divorce because it's really not like that. I mean, our relationship is still as good as it's ever been. We were laughing yesterday. Obviously yesterday was a bittersweet moment for both him and myself to have to sit down in the room with our guys and our team and let them know that this combination that we've had, that have won over 30 races and 2 championships was going to finally separate and part ways. But the important thing to me is that not only was Zippy, but the entire organization, we were parting on great terms. We want to part as champions at the end of the season, and the friendships that not only with Zippy, but the team guys, the rest of the organization, and the entire Gibbs family is something that throughout this has been very, very important to us.
And the key thing that came out of both the mouths of Tony Stewart and Greg Zipadelli here today, and Zipadelli did address the media in the media center just a little while ago, they said their focus now that all this attention is done, the news is out there, is on getting this 20 car back to victory lane. Tony hasn't been to victory lane in the Cup Series in just about a year, so they want to get back to victory lane and focus on trying to get this championship. He's in the 12th and final spot in the chase. And when I spoke to Zippy, he said, you know what? When Tony first told me, I was a little bit mad, a little bit frustrated. But then as he told me the situation and what he was going to do with that team, he understood it. And everybody understands it at the team. Now, on the other side of the spectrum is who's going to fill the seat in the 20 car. Everybody points to Joey Logano, already a winner at 18 years old in the Nationwide Series. And I think a lot of people would say that's the sure bet to go in the car. But obviously no announcement yet, and Greg Zipadelli said he is not even going to address that issue. However, I said, what about this new challenge, Greg? And he said, you know what? I've always been one about the hunt, not necessarily the kill. He thinks the world of Joey Logano. But the question is, will he be good in the Cup Series right away? That's a question that's unanswered. And he said, you know what? It may be unfair to throw him to the Sharks right away because there are a lot of sharks swimming here in the Cup Series. But Johnny, very delicate issues here today, handled very well by all parties. Greg Zipadelli, Tony Stewart, Joe Custer of Stewart Haas Racing, and also Joe Gibbs and J.D. Gibbs of JGR. And tomorrow they will address the media here at Chicagoland Speedway at 3:30.
And Bob, certainly the future looks bright for Joe Gibbs Racing with up-and-coming stars and current superstars in the sport, but also for Tony at now Stewart Haas Racing. They're basically a partnership with Hendrick Motorsports.
Yes, they are. I mean, you think about it. If you want to go back and forth between all their players, Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jimmy Johnson, Mark Martin now in the 5 car, and you get that partnership, that alliance of technology over there to Stewart Haas Racing. That is a dream team of sorts, so it's going to be very interesting to watch this progress and who goes in the other car at Stewart Haas Racing.
Bob, thanks a lot. It's going to be interesting to take a look this weekend at Tony Stewart and Kevin Harvick. Tony Stewart is in the top 12. Kevin Harvick is just outside of the top 12. And both drivers have 2 victories at this racetrack, and that's the most among active drivers. Only 8 races have been held here, actually only 7. This is the 8th race for the Chicagoland Speedway. First one ever on Saturday night. We'll talk about that and more next.
NASCAR Live is presented by Polaris Industries and brought to you in part by Hankook Tires. Tame the road.
Observe NASCAR driver Elliott Sadler, a master of disguise. Today, Agent Sadler is a guest spotter for Sunoco's Free Fuel 5000. If you get spotted near Sunoco with our decal on your car, you win free fuel instantly. But the thing is,
I'm moving in.
You never know when we'll be watching. Get your decal at Sunoco. Get spotted, win free fuel, and a chance at 5,000 gallons. The Free Fuel 5000 right now at Sunoco.
This is Hall of Famer Dan Marino for United Steel Building. If you're looking for a warehouse, church, shop, barn, hangar, office, or riding arena, then you need a custom-made, pre-engineered United Steel Building. They ship nationwide and include the drawings you need for your permits. United Steel Buildings are virtually maintenance-free. No termites, no painting, no wood rot, and less money to insure. Call 866-73-STEEL. That's 866-73-STEEL. Call now.
There's a place where the fire of competition burns more intensely than ever. Where drivers can see their dreams just over the horizon, and where the future's as bright as the sunrise. A place where the sense of community is as close as the racing itself. Welcome to our world, the NASCAR Camping World Series.
It is a busy yet rare Thursday of racing here at the Chicagoland Speedway in Joliet, Illinois, as we have a Saturday night race here at this racetrack for the first time ever, and that shifts the schedule a little bit and brings us out here with all the race fans here on a Thursday at Chicagoland. Now, Martin Truex Jr. had trouble with his car getting it through inspection pre-race at the Daytona International Speedway. He was hit with 150 points, and that dropped him from 14th to 18th in owner points. For more on that situation, let's go to Hermie Sadler.
Thank you, JR. And I do have Martin Truex. Martin, obviously, last week got off to a bad start from day one. And talk about the penalties this team sustained, how you guys are coping with it, and what you do as a driver to kind of, you had no choice but to put it behind you and race until they figure out, what they're going to do with all that.
Yeah, well, there's really nothing we can do about it now. Yeah, certainly no reason to worry about it. My team's doing a good job. We had a good test this week. Looking forward to this weekend in Chicago, and last week's last week, so it hurts. We had a really good shot at getting in the chase. If we could just, perform the way we needed to, now it's going to be real tough, but we're going to give it our best shot, and, we're going to keep working hard and do all we can do.
Turn your focus to Chicago. What do you think about this racetrack? You guys have run the same story, run well, but don't have the finishes really to show for it at times. What is your outlook at this racetrack here in Chicago?
Looking forward to it. We qualified second here last year. We had a really good car all day, and we ran well, so obviously the car's different now. It's a new challenge, but we had a good test this week. I think we're going to be better than we've been at the mile and a half, so looking forward to getting in the Bass Pro Chevrolet right here today and putting all that work to use, see if it'll work for us.
And JR, no question about it, 150 points, a devastating blow to this race team, but Kevin Bono Mannion is here this weekend. They are appealing the suspension part of these penalties, but Martin Truex will try to put that behind him and get it done on the racetrack this weekend in Chicago, get this team back on track.
That's right, Hermie. If anybody can bounce back from that, it would be that group. And now we got 7 races to go before the chase cutoff. And Kyle Busch is now with his 6 wins, is on top of this thing. And if he goes right now with 6 wins into the chase, he will have 60 bonus points. The number at the bottom of the screen is the one that shows you how many of those 10 bonus points you get for a win. Jeff Gordon, one of the premier drivers in the world, has no wins yet, but he has won at this racetrack before, and this could be a slump buster weekend for him as well. Casey Kane with 2 wins is down in the night spots. Greg Biffle and Tony Stewart, who are holding on to the last 2 spots in the top 12 in the championship standings on the outside, but just barely looking in. Kevin Harvick, David Reagan, and Brian Vickers occupy 13, 14, and 15. Saturday NASCAR race day rolls into the Windy City. As the chase nears, attention builds, and only one pre-race show can keep you in contention. NASCAR race day built by the Home Depot. Live coverage from Chicago begins Saturday, 4:30 Eastern. NASCAR on Speed. Be there.
Coming July 21st, it's an all-new episode of 101 Cars You Must Drive with the super sporty and super fast.
No tickets for me.
101 Cars You Must Drive with Alonzo Bowden, July 21st, 9 Eastern, only on Speed.
Of all the numbers you encounter along your journey to wherever you're going, you'll find there's one number you can always count on for a great night's rest. Super 8, now with free high-speed internet, free breakfast, and more. Super 8, see you along the way.
Me and Richard, we put up a lot of miles, and we used to share a problem. He calls it monkey butt. So I got us anti-monkey butt powder. Absorbs sweat, relieves discomfort fast. Anti-monkey butt powder. Me and Richard are riding easy.
What your engine feels, you feel. And when it's running clean, you feel it. Which is why Pennzoil Platinum has active cleansing agents to clean out up to 46% of sludge in the first oil change. That's 3 times better than the leading conventional oil. Pennzoil Platinum Motor Oil, our ultimate clean for your ultimate feeling. Not just oil, Pennzoil.
Pennzoil Platinum, just $3.98 a quart for a limited time at Advance Auto Parts.
More bang for your buck. Get Comcast Digital Voice Local with more calling plan for just $24.95 per month every month. Sign up today and take your number with you. Because the less money you pay, the more you get to keep for yourself. Just call 1-800-COMCAST today. Comcast Digital Voice. It's Comcastic.
Kevin Harvick takes the inaugural Tropicana 400 at Chicagoland.
You guys love the crap, man. Way to go, guys.
And Kevin Harvick is going to come to the start-finish line and take the checkered flag. He wins the Tropicana 400 for a second straight year.
Awesome job. Great call.
Richard Childress had a lot of faith in me. Fans had a lot of faith in all of us, and I just can't wait to go celebrate this one.
Wonder how long it took to get the orange juice out of those race suits after that win, but some of the Sprint Cup winners at Chicagoland include some of the biggest names in the sport: Harvick, Newman, Tony Stewart, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Jeff Gordon. And therefore, right now, Tony Stewart only leads Kevin Harvick in the Sprint Cup point standings by 2 points. Tony's on the inside, Kevin's on the outside, and this is a very successful track for both of those drivers. They each have 2 victories, and that's the most among active drivers. Now, while we're on the subject of the number 2, that's the position that Carl Edwards finished in last weekend at Daytona, and he's with Bob Dillner.
Inside the Cup garage, Carl Edwards inside his Cup car getting ready to go out for the first practice session for the Sprint Cup Series. And you know, we're practicing under daylight conditions. A little cloudy here, but the light's going to be a big deal here. Carl, what do you expect out of this track this time around with the new nighttime racing?
It's fast over there in that World Financial Group Fusion in the Nationwide Series. It's real fast right now. And it looks like this rain could hit us, so we don't know whether to practice for a race or qualifying. But very cool this weekend. We've got 8,000 Office Depot associates. Their signatures are all over this race car. And we're having fun with it. You know, hopefully we can get a good race. But the fans are going to be the ones who really benefit from this night race. It's going to be cool.
Hey, nighttime racing, I know you get pumped up for it. What is going to be different about this place, you think?
I don't know, probably just the energy level. I mean, you know, I grew up racing in Macomb, Illinois, you know, right down the road, and Godfrey, St. Charles, you know, all those places. And I know the fans around here are, you know, they're Saturday night, you know, race fans. So it's going to be cool.
All right, Carl Edwards getting prepared inside his race car. And take a look at all the signatures here. As Carl Edwards mentioned, more than 8,000 signatures as part of an Office Depot promotion this week here at the Chicagoland Speedway, Johnny.
That's a pretty cool promotion. How about this? Someone wants to marry Carl Edwards. I wonder if he can see that's going on. We may be able to, I don't know, make a match here at Chicagoland Speedway. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back and get you ready for practice here at Chicagoland.
Sunday, the American Le Mans Series.
There it is, green flag. But they're coming. Watch yourself.
Returns for one of the most unpredictable races of the season.
He got a run.
From Lime Rock, Sunday, 12 Eastern, only on
the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, now in pocket size. Introducing NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile. Live radio broadcasts, live team chatter, and real-time stats. Now available on the new Samsung Instinct, only from Sprint. Text NASCAR to 7777 to get it now. Then let the battle come to you.
What your engine feels, you feel. And when it's running clean, you feel it. Which is why Pennzoil Platinum has active cleansing agents to clean out up to 46% of sludge in the first oil change. That's 3 times better than the leading conventional oil. Pennzoil Platinum Motor Oil. Our ultimate clean for your ultimate feeling. Not just oil, Pennzoil.
Pennzoil Platinum, just $3.98 a quart for a limited time at Advance Auto Parts.
Working with Comcast, it has always been a very rewarding experience. We've been advertising on Comcast for the past 3 years. The people involved have always been very helpful to the small business. We get a lot of comments about the commercials. In fact, newly elected mayor of Oakland commented on how it resonates with the community.
To target your customers in one or more of our 21 local zones, call 1-888-SPOT-TV1.
This Thursday on Speed, catch the network premiere of Wrecked, Life in the Crash Lane. Ride with Chicago's toughest family of towers and find out why cleaning up the mess isn't for the faint of heart. Wrecked, new series, premieres Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Speed. And by NASCAR rules in this afternoon's qualifying session, only the top 35 will be guaranteed spots in this race. For the rest of the 45 entries, that makes 2 cars that will have to go home, not making the 43-car field. Let's take a look at who's in and who's out of that top 35 in points right now. Sam Hornish Jr. and Roger Penske's number 77 Dodge has the last spot. Just on the outside, looking in is Scott Riggs in the number 66. 70 points back, and then there's a big margin between Scott Riggs and A.J. Allmendinger back behind the wheel of the number 84 team Red Bull Toyota, and he has not failed to make a race since he got back behind the wheel of that car. Let's now go to Hermie Sadler with more from Scott Riggs.
And one of the drivers and teams outside the top 35 right now trying to get their way back in, Scott Riggs and his 66 team. Now, Scott, obviously a lot of media attention surrounding Tony Stewart and his announcement coming to Haas CNC. The question is now, as it relates to you, what does that mean for Scott Riggs this year and heading into 2009?
That's a good question. I have no idea what next year holds for myself. I know that Tony coming on board and being this big of a part of Haas CNC Racing is going to be great for the organization. I think that he'll be able to draw a lot of, not just more people, but good sponsors and more people to come on board to build a bigger team, bigger organization, and it'll be a better place to race. How that fits to me, I don't know though. I haven't sat down and talked to anybody about it. So what I have to do is look forward, the last half of this year to go out and do the best job I can with the equipment and the people that I have, and continue to try to do the same thing I've done for the last couple of years, is continue to prove myself, keep building foundations, and I just want to be able to be around when it starts to come to the top.
And Tony mentioned in the press conference one of the key things was to try to get one of these cars in the top 35 because he has a Champions Divisional to fall back on. Now you use this kind of now as a, audition, so to speak. You've been around long enough, you wouldn't think you'd have to audition, but you have to make the best of every race you got left in this car, whether it be here for 09 or looking for somewhere else.
Well, I want to do the best job I can no matter where I am. I know that we were fortunate to have people like State Water Heaters and those guys come on board this year and take a chance on us, and also Hunt Brothers Pizza and those guys that come in for, sort of dipping their toes in the water and see how it is. So, for those guys to take a chance on us, I want to do the best job I can for them. But the most of all, I want to do the best job for myself and my guys that are here right now. Who knows who's going to be here or not be here next year? But we still all have something to prove, and I feel like I'm always trying to prove myself.
It'll be interesting to see how things shake out for here at the 66 and 70 teams the remainder of 2008.
Hermie, thanks a lot. And as we mentioned, Scott Riggs is just one spot outside of the top 35. Let's hear what Tony Stewart said about Mr. Riggs in the press conference earlier today.
Scott hasn't been ruled out by any means. I think Scott's done a great job this year of stepping up to the plate in a lot of occasions. It's a big list of drivers that we're working on. Obviously, it's important to get one of the 2 cars, or especially the 66 car, who's the closest right now, of getting them back inside the top 35 in points. It's important, but at the same time, I feel like the level of this race team is going to go up next year, and hopefully that won't be a factor when it comes time to qualifying each week. And if we can get through the first 5 weeks, I think that part will take care of itself. But it's a valid concern at this point, obviously. But that's where, Joe and everybody that's, like Joe said, there's people been calling already because of this announcement today, and hopefully they'll, hopefully the added people that we'll be adding soon will be able to help ensure that we get the 66 car back in the top 35 in points, and it won't be an issue. But we obviously, have 18 races left to accomplish that goal, and that's a very big variable in the equation right now of things to do before the end of the season.
And the 66 is the best shot that team has to get back in the top 35. Their other car is now riding 44th in points and way out of it for this season. As we see NASCAR's best getting ready to take their mounts and jump on the racetrack here in Chicago, we'll be back with NASCAR Live in a moment.
The best damn sports show, period. Sports television's nightly party. Weeknights on FSN.
I get out and I ride with my buddies every weekend, you know. We go out and get after it. Like today, we hit one section when everyone stopped, second guessed it, and I just kept going. Rock here, rock there. I just got a handful, and there she went.
True all-wheel drive, new active descent control, legendary ride and handling. Polaris, the world's toughest ATVs. Polaris Power Play Sales Event. Get to your participating dealer for up to $800 in rebates and as low as 3.99% APR on select ATVs.
Never buy a used car without a Carfax Vehicle History Report. Ask your dealer or go to Carfax.com.
The economy's gotten real tough these days, which makes errands tougher to beat. Tougher to beat on prices. We give you the guaranteed low price. Tougher to beat on terms. Errands never checks your credit, and you can lease to own for 12, 18, or 24 months. Tougher to beat on quality. Errands has brand name furniture, electronics, appliances, and computers. We'll help you beat this tough economy because nobody beats errands.
Price of gas got you down. Let Travelodge pump you up. Stay 2 consecutive nights, save 15%. Travelodge. Stay 2, save a few.
I'm Tony Stewart, and I race for the Home Depot. There I was, a NASCAR rookie with a white race car. The Home Depot really saved my career. Bright orange? It says, look at me, I'm fast. Then to say thanks to the Home Depot for all their help, I did a little something special for them. You put our logo on your car? Yeah, if you like it. Like, I love it. You know, this racing thing doesn't work out. You got an eye for art.
And Tony Stewart takes the checkered flag.
NASCAR Live is presented by Polaris Industries and brought to you in part by Hankook Tires. Tame the road.
There are a few dark clouds swirling around the Chicagoland Speedway right now, but we're hoping they stay off to the north and don't affect us. But those clouds are making some people in the garage area make some decisions on strategy. For more on what's happening inside the racetrack, let's go to Hermie Sadler.
Well, thank you, JR. And guys are nervous about the rain, but also nervous about what's going on inside this garage. It's like a soap opera as the garage turns. We talk about the announcement with Tony Stewart. Okay, we know what he's doing, but now do we know what Scott Riggs is doing? Do we know what Ryan Newman is doing? Do we know who's going to drive Richard Childress' 4th team next year? Silly season has started halfway through this 2008 season. As competitive as I've ever seen it as far as sponsorships and crew chiefs and drivers, and I expect it to continue to be this way through the second half of the season. So as we get one question answered, 3 more questions arise, and it's going to be fun and interesting to watch how these stories unfold as we head down to the chase for the Sprint Cup. Bob Dillner?
Well, Hermie, it's like a game of dominoes here in the Sprint Cup Series garage area. One of those dominoes fell here today. In fact, the 31 team, it involved them with Jeff Burton and also Richard Childress. You see the car right there on pit road getting ready to go out to practice. Well, you know what? It's not going to look like that next year. It's going to look like this. They unveiled the number 31 Caterpillar car here today outside the media center at the Chicagoland Speedway. There's Richard Childress and Jeff Burton pulling off the car cover. A very good-looking number 31 machine. But the other big news here today, of course, revolves around the 20 team. Tony Stewart, Greg Zipadelli, and so forth. And Greg Zipadelli on top of the transporter here just before practice. And I think one other key thing that we did not mention was that Greg Zipadelli, of course, is staying with Joe Gibbs Racing, but why? He said, you know what? Part of me wishes I was going with Tony because he and I are such good friends, but at the same time, loyalty means a lot to me, and Joe Gibbs Racing gave me a chance when I was a nobody, and they stuck with me through the good and the bad, and that's why he is staying with Joe Gibbs Racing and whomever the driver is going to be in that 20 car next year, Johnny.
Bob, thanks a lot. I think these numbers are right. I think Joe Gibbs Racing, when they started out, they had 19 employees. I believe 17 are still with the organization today as they've grown by leaps and bounds and celebrated championships and many, many race wins along the way. As we get ready for practice here at Chicagoland Speedway, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back here on Speed in just a moment.
Speed welcomes you to Joliet, Illinois, just south of Chicago, and it's the Chicagoland Speedway getting set for practice for the LifeLock 400. Will qualify later tonight, or at least we hope. You can see dark clouds on the horizon. For the time being, we have kept them at bay, and the cars are rolling out onto the racetrack on this 1.5 mile track that opened back in 2001. Hi, everybody. Steve Burns with Larry McReynolds and Jeff Hammond. And before we get to race cars, we need to get to big news, Jeff, because Tony Stewart made it official here this afternoon. He is leaving Joe Gibbs Racing at season's end.
Yeah, a lot of speculation now was finally put to rest when Tony came on a media tour today, you might say, and he announced officially he will be a part of basically Stewart-Haas Racing in 2009. Big announcement here at the racetrack. And guys, it's something I think that Tony's been wanting for a long, long time. You got to realize he's not as young as he once was. He knows what the future holds for him now. He is now officially going to be an owner and be able to control a lot of the future, not only for himself, but for a lot of race car drivers. And I really think that's what Tony's all about, is helping other people get in our sport and make a living.
And you know, the other news that was anticipated after we left Daytona is the one car, Martin Truex Jr., Kevin Mannion. Their car would not fit the grid of templates last Thursday in initial inspection. NASCAR confiscated the one car. They had to unload a backup car, no practice because of the weather. As anticipated on Tuesday, it was a $100,000 fine to crew chief Kevin Mannion. Kevin Mannion and the car chief Gary Putnam suspended for 6 races, but the biggie, 150 driver and owner points. But DEI, the one car, they have appealed that. So Kevin Mannion, Gary Putnam, they are here at the racetrack. But the big deal, when you think about the points, is right now, until this appeal goes one way or the other, the one car is 88 points out of the top 12. Add the 150-point penalty to it, that is 238 points. Third news is, in case you didn't notice, Steve Burns has the wrong shirt on.
I had a pen malfunction. It was devastating.
It blowed up.
It blew up. Exactly.
It blew up. Exactly right.
Well, Kyle Busch, we know this. When the chase starts, he will have 60 bonus points. Got his 6th win at Daytona on Saturday night.
Now, the big news right there had to be the fact that 31 dropped down. You see Dale Earnhardt Jr. moving up a little bit right now. But look right around where Tony Stewart is. Had to get out of the car at Daytona. He is now in that, I guess you might say, that not very good 12th position as far as the chase, but at least he's still in. David Reagan, as well as Greg Biffle, a bunch of other guys are very, very close.
If you did the math quickly, looking at those 2 pages of graphics, 6th through 13th, which is Jeff Gordon through Kevin Harvick, only separated by 108 points. Mathematically, Jeff Gordon could fall out of the top 12 should he have a major problem. A lot of those guys that just behind him have a good run on Saturday night.
Casey Kane drops to the apron. This practice scheduled for about 1.5 hours in length. Yes, sir, Mr. Hammond.
You know, we're talking about how much of a big week it's been as far as our sport's concerned. Well, don't forget the fact we're kind of making history here. Going to be racing under the lights. I mean, that's going to be pretty big as far as this organization, as far as this racetrack's concerned. And I think it's got to be at least a different thought process as far as the garage is concerned. And we've always said the nighttime does not fix problems with race cars, but I do believe it makes, once again, a beautiful stage for a really, I think, a gorgeous racetrack here in Chicagoland. Under the lights is really going to put these race cars on center stage, and it will definitely be a much better race, I think, for the competitors, and I think a lot more comfortable race even for the folks in the stands.
Well, this is a Saturday night race, and last Saturday night, this cat right here, Joe Gibbs Racing, that 18 team, Steve Addington, they get their 6th win of 2008.
This was big.
That was on the last restart, attempting the green-white checker. They're very proud. NASCAR did not throw the caution flag there. Jeff Gordon was out of harm's way. They hesitated. He got his car refired and moved on. No caution at that point, but here's where it got real big.
Yep, Michael Waltrip said Monday night on This Week in NASCAR, I kept seeing stuff to the right, but I couldn't miss it.
And again, we want to make sure and explain, because there was a little bit of controversy about this. The minute the caution flag was displayed here, this was on the final lap. We do one attempt. You can see the caution flags already out. Right there, The field is frozen, boom, right there. You can see Kyle Busch is in front of Carl Edwards. They don't go back to scoring loops when it determines the finish of the race. They go to where the cars are frozen at the time of caution. There was some other concern. I know the 77 car, Sam Hornish, they couldn't figure out how come they didn't finish where they were running at the time of caution. Because they were involved in the accident, you also have to maintain reasonable caution lap speed and come back to the line, and obviously the 77 car could not do that.
Want to catch up a little bit on what Jeff talked about there with Tony Stewart. Leaving Joe Gibbs Racing at season's end, and I also want to stress that Joe and J.D. Gibbs released him from his contract. He had another year. The question was asked today in the media center at the press conference, who's your second driver going to be? It's a two-car operation. Tony said we're not ready to announce that. He also did not announce any sponsorship scenarios with Stewart-Haas Racing.
In contrary to a lot of belief, he was very adamant in saying Scott Riggs is not out of the running to drive one of those race cars.
Down in the garage, Matt Yoakum has an update on Martin Truex Jr.
Steve, Larry Mack documented earlier in the show, this weekend is all about damage control for Martin Truex Jr. and the one team. Yes, DEI has appealed the penalty, and really they've appealed it for a couple different reasons. First, it allows the team to get their organization in place as far as personnel. So if they do lose the appeal and the suspensions do stick, they've got people in place so they can try to at least, not have as much damage trying to make this chase. Secondly, earlier this week, they went to Kentucky. They feel like they found something, and they're trying to utilize it here this weekend. If it does prove to be successful, it'll be a great stretch for this team on down the road, which traditionally has been a great stretch for Martin Truex Jr. He says the car could use a little more front grip, but other than that, the exit of the corner, this car was excellent. Right now, they're just working on qualifying runs. Let's go across the garage area to Lindsey Zarniak.
Matt, Kevin Harvick is another driver that's very pleased with this car so far. He just pulled it here into the garage, and I know he said he's feeling a little bit tight in the center of the corners, but you'd think that Kevin coming here is extremely confident. After all, he's won twice at Chicago. His last two trips here, he finished fourth. However, his crew chief said it's all about just shaking it down and crossing your fingers, because with this new car and the brand new car that Harvick brought here this weekend, he adds, anything is possible. Guys?
We just got through listening to Matt talk about the one car. One thing else I did hear coming from the DEI camp from a reliable source, they are very close to re-signing Martin Truex to that ride. So if they can do that, that'll also help that company a lot. So maybe they can put all this thing back on track sooner or later.
Got to take another driver out of the rumor mill of being Tony Stewart's teammate.
Can I get a new shirt?
Different color.
Move it out. Let's go. Roger, night down for me, please. All set here.
Being fast from 0 to 60 is good. Truckers say being fast from 40 to 70, even better. Throw in 4 massive disc brakes, and you got yourself one happy ending. Available on the full-size Tundra. The truck that's changing it all.
Of all the numbers you encounter along your journey to wherever you're going, you'll find there's one number you can always count on for a great night's rest. Super 8, now with free high-speed internet, free breakfast, and more. Super 8, see you along the way.
For every morning on the job, there's a child to protect. For every mission, a family. Every day, we defend our freedom, our liberty, and our way of life. Our calling is to protect the people of our country, and this to us hits very, very close to home. To learn more, go to borderpatrol.gov.
Never buy a used car without a Carfax Vehicle History Report. Ask your dealer or go to Carfax.com.
race fans. With the NASCAR.com Superstore receiving new products every day, you can be sure to find merchandise for all of your favorite drivers. The Superstore is the official online store of NASCAR with over 15,000 licensed products for men, women, and kids. Like a collector's edition retro number 88 Mountain Dew diecast or other commemorative gear celebrating Mountain Dew's history in NASCAR. Shop now and have your gear delivered to your home before race day. Only at the NASCAR.com Superstore.
NASCAR.com, your home for everything NASCAR.
Early in this practice at the mile-and-a-half Chicagoland Speedway, the top 8 drivers are in Chevrolets. That is Mark Martin in the DEI Chevy. Right now, Martin 12th fastest overall. Martin Truex Jr. is the quickest, followed by Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Jimmy Johnson.
Jeff and I were just looking right before we came back from break. 10 of the top 12 are Chevrolets right now. You've got the Fords of Carl Edwards and Greg Biffle that are 9th and 10th.
Well, here's a guy that made, a whale of a recovery as far as Daytona is concerned. He and his crew chief, Pat Tryson, took that number 2 right there, Blue Deuce, and they were able to start the back of the pack with only 2 laps on that race car.
A brand new race car.
Brand new race car, and bring it all the way up to where...
drives like shit.
Excuse that right there, but I'm not very happy with his car right now.
Apologize for his language.
Exactly. But
in the heat of battle?
Heat of battle right now. He finished 4th last week at Daytona, but he's not off to too good a start here at Chicagoland. And when I talked to him earlier this morning, guys, on another bright note, his Chicago Cubs are looking very strong as far as baseball is concerned. You know, he is very much passionate about baseball, but in particularly Chicago Cubs.
He is a Cubs fan and is trying to make a tour of every major league ballpark as we travel around the NASCAR circuit.
But I don't think we can say enough of what Jeff just talked about. Pat Tryson and that 2 crew after having to unload that backup car. The only 2 laps of practice was qualifying. Pat Tryson, the crew chief, said he has never made so many adjustments on one race car in a 400-mile race in all of his career, but obviously it paid off.
As I mentioned a moment ago, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is second quick here at the Chicagoland Speedway. Opened in 2001, and we've been racing once a year, every year since then. And as Jeff Hammond said, the inaugural race under the lights at this track. And, you know, guys, we've been facing a threat of weather for about the last hour and a half. Does that change your agenda at all in this practice? We're going to qualify later tonight.
If I was one of these guys locked in the top 35, I would definitely focus on trying to get me some long runs in here to see where the balance is on this race car. And I think the overcast conditions, we listened to Dale Earnhardt Jr. talk about his back end of the race car is coming unhooked, is what he's describing back to Tony Eury Jr. So they got a little bit of work to do on the 88, but the overcast condition has not been real hot here today. I think all these things will at least play into everybody's hands as we take a look at Jimmy Johnson. And he's right now moved up to 2nd as far as the speed chart's concerned, but I think majority of these guys have got to be thinking about, you know, trying to get this thing balanced for the race.
Well, I think we have 2 unknowns here. We will be racing under the lights for the first time. I think the drivers that will be doing the double duty here this weekend, running the Nationwide Series race tomorrow night, I think they will be a leg up because they'll at least know what the track's going to do. But remember, this is the first time that we will be racing this new car here at Chicagoland Speedway. So we've got a couple of firsts happening here.
Lindsay has an update on Tony Stewart, Larry.
Steve, Tony Stewart's crew is trying to get him ready to go back out there on the racetrack. Tony had described his car as, he said, centers in the turns, chatters a little bit, so they're working on the chassis a little bit. They're getting him ready. They will do one more race run, and then these guys are going to switch it over to qualifying trim because a lot of folks in the garage down here are talking about that rain that could be headed this way, so they want to make sure to get one of those qualifying runs in. And I know you guys would agree that I can imagine the best place for Tony right now is inside that race car. As you were talking about the decision that he spoke about earlier today, he just wants to be back focused right now with this team.
A couple of things. Tony Stewart will be one of 15 drivers doing the double duty. One thing he said, you see Greg Zipadelli there at the right front fender. He said the toughest part of this decision was that man right there, Greg Zipadelli. It's the longest driver-crew chief relationship going in the garage area. But what Tony said that gave him peace of mind last night, he probably had the best night's rest that he has had in weeks. He went to Joe Gibbs Racing yesterday. He talked to his race team and his race team only, the 20 team. Then he spoke to every employee in Joe Gibbs Racing as a group. They applauded when he was done talking, and he said they were waiting in line to shake his hand and wish him well in the future. And he said, finally, I laid down last night and I had a good night's sleep.
But one of the comments he had, too, one of his announcements, he was making an explanation about how this stuff felt, Steve, was the fact that I feel like I was driving to an execution. He said, my own. He said, because I hated doing what I was doing. I was excited about the future, but I was dreading having to go in there and basically tell these people I won't be coming back.
2 championships and over 30 Sprint Cup wins for Tony Stewart at Joe Gibbs Racing. Saturday, NASCAR race day rolls into the Windy City. As the chase nears, the tension builds, and only one pre-race show can keep you in contention. NASCAR race day built by the Home Depot, 4:30 Saturday.
Woo!
What does Michigan International Speedway mean to you?
It's a road trip and camping with family and friends.
It's the free Saturday night concert for me.
It's tailgating with my friends and a cold drink.
Yeah, it's the flyover before the race.
Man, I love seeing Gordon, Stewart, and Johnson going 3 wide.
It's the best day of the year.
This is Michigan International Speedway. It's your speed. Great seats are available for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series 3 and Performance 400 presented by Bondo on August 17th. Call 800-354-1010 or visit mispeedway.com to get your tickets today.
Drain out the old. Pour in the new with Pennzoil Conventional Motor Oil. It's $8.98 a gallon. That's less than $2.25 a quart. So whatever you're working on, Advance will help you keep the wheels turning.
Q horsepower is here. And no leading synthetic oil delivers more power than Q horsepower, which is why it's recommended by Ferrari for every oil change. Q horsepower. Unleash all your horses.
Jimmy? Casey? Dale? Yeah, man. Let's rock.
When you're Hendrick Motorsports, every race is a battle. And every win comes with Q motor oil technology. And there's a Q horsepower specially designed to help maximize the power.
In your car.
Unleash all your horses.
Toyotas of Brian Vickers and Dave Blaney have hopped into the top 5, breaking up the Chevy stranglehold in this practice. Jason Leffler in the 70 car, you see his name in yellow because he is not one of the drivers who is locked into the top 35 starting positions via owner points.
See old Paul Menard there in the top 10. Got that pole last week, his first top 10 start in his Sprint Cup Series, and led 19 laps. The first 19 laps, that's more laps than he has led his entire career.
He looked good early on. He really did.
Did.
Very strong.
Led about the first 20 laps.
Yep.
Jeff Gordon in the 24 car. Right now, he just jumps up the 3rd quickest right behind his teammate Jimmy Johnson. Looks like the Steve Letarte in this group. They're working on qualifying runs. Jeff has the win here a couple of years ago in 2006 and 5 top 10 finishes in his 7 starts.
David Reagan in the 6 car for Roush Fenway Racing. Right now he is listed 20th fastest overall. There are 45 cars entered for 43 positions. You'll see qualifying later tonight here on Speed.
David just keeps nipping at that top 12. Had a great weekend last weekend, qualified 6th, finished 5th. Amazing, because he was one of the cars you saw as they came through the trial bowl that pretty much was pointed to the infield. But right now, he's 14th in the points, 102 points back of the 12th place car.
Larry, have you ever seen race car drivers use their race cars like bumper cars like they did Saturday night?
Unbelievable.
I mean, it was like you were watching something at one of the local fairs, or, you know, they're just beating each other. I mean, banging. I mean, I haven't seen them beat on each other like that in a long time. And I'm not talking about running in the back of each other. I'm talking about body slamming one another.
Yeah, I mean, we only had 4 cautions in the first 109 laps, and I think one of those actually was for debris. But I think we had 6 to 7 cautions in the last 25, 26 laps.
That involved a lot of race cars.
Yes, it did.
Boy, Matt Kenseth has been terrific at the Chicagoland Speedway. Finished second here 1 year ago. He's finished second back in 2005. And he's led laps in each of the last 4 races here at Chicagoland.
Right now, he's 28th quickest.
Yeah, but the big thing about this guy is look where he's came from and look where he is right now. And he is the poster child about how to get back in this chase. Finish races, score those valuable points, and kind of like let everybody else kind of like take themselves out. And right now, he's in pretty good shape.
Yeah, finished third at Daytona. He was 13th in points going into Daytona and jumped all the way to 9th by finishing in the top 5.
Larry, he's finished in the top 10 in 7 of the last 8 Sprint Cup races.
You know, and you keep bragging about how good he is here at Chicagoland. I may have missed this here, but, you know, he's led a lot of laps at this place, too. Second most laps of anybody, but, you know, second only to Tony Stewart, who's led 384. He's led 293 here at Chicagoland.
Led 112 laps here in 2006 and 176 in 2005.
I get a feeling as we look at Casey Mears here in the 5 car who sat on the pole here a year ago.
Late on entry.
But I get a feeling Matt Kenseth is working on race runs right now. His teammate Greg Biffle has run 11 laps and David Reagan has run 16 laps. So it looks like for the most part the Roush Fenway group, they're working on race setup right now.
1.5 mile, D-shaped oval. It's got a little bit of a, Michael Waltrip said, a kink in the backstretch. It's a little bit of bowed out, and it's 18 degrees of banking in the corners.
I'm going to say, you look here at Casey Mears. I looked over here at the scoring monitor. Look at what's happening with the Hendrick cars overall. They're second, third.
Like I got too much camber.
Second, third, fourth, and there Casey Mears is. He's 13th, so it looks like maybe their mile-and-a-half program has taken a little bit of a step up.
That's interesting what he just said. It feels like it's got a little too much camber, and before that he said it was a little bit loose on entry. You know, you put negative camber in the right front. You lean the top of the right front wheel in. That helps the car turn, which is a big key here at Chicagoland Speedway. But as the car travels, if you've got too much camber, it gets on the inside edge of that right front tire and will make it loose, and it's given that little bit of a feel.
Jeff, another news item this week, new crew chief on that 84 car of A.J. Allmendinger.
Yeah, A.J. Allmendinger's got a new crew chief, and it happens to be an old crew chief. Jimmy Elledge, been around the sport for a long period of time, is now assumed, you know, basically the controls of the 84 car. Ricky Byers, who has been the crew chief, is still with the company. He's just, you know, got a different role back in the shop. But they brought Jimmy in here, and I talked to him just briefly. And surprisingly enough, he's not even really been in the shop. He went in and met with some of the guys, but basically they gave him some uniforms. Harris Jimmy has worked with Dale Earnhardt Sr., Ganassi Racing most recently, Juan Pablo Montoya. But he said they gave him some uniforms, and he jumped on an airplane, and now he finds himself here.
Good, no pressure.
Working with A.J. Allmendinger, you know, trying to see if he can help, you know, get this 84 car on track, just like his teammate, the 83 of Ryan Vickers. Now, right now, he's 40th in his practice session, so they got a bit of work to do.
Let's go back to Lindsay.
Steve, Clint Boyer's crew right now is changing over into race trim. You guys were running some qualifying laps, right?
Yeah, we're just making a qualifying run. Just really, you know, it's loose in the corner and then tied up off, just kind of sliding around and fighting grip. But hopefully they'll fix it or it'll rain, one or the other.
So you're putting your meteorologist hat on then. How do you feel about what you have in this car, what you've seen so far?
Well, I mean, you definitely want to be able to qualify good. That's been our struggle here for the last month and a half, is we just can't qualify. And starting in the back, anything can happen back there. But that's what we're working on. That's what we're trying for.
All right, well, you guys, and he's got quite a challenge because they will roll off first here in qualifying.
Yeah, this year, that 07 car, other than when they started up in the top 10 because of their point situation in rain, they only have one top 10 qualifying effort, 7th back at Atlanta.
I know now why he looked like he had a little bit of an attitude. Going out first? Not good, not good.
Sunday, the American Le Mans Series.
There it is, green flag. But they're coming. Watch yourself.
Returns for one of the most unpredictable races of the season.
He gotta run.
From Lime Rock, Sunday, 12 Eastern, only on
It basically took me the whole summer. And I don't know how many times I needed to go to AutoZone, but at least now when I go, it's not on my bike.
Yeah, we built the neutral wall for very modern, clean feel.
This is top quality and we are happy.
Looks perfect with the floor coverings, yeah.
I think so. Please, I'll get this. Thank you. Of course.
Was ist das denn für eine Karte?
Das ist wohl eine Kindergartenkarte.
Bin ich die Einzige, die das merkwürdig findet?
Ja.
Auf Fluss.
Good day. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. I think that went well, huh?
Yeah. Let me get this, okay?
If you own your business, own the card that says so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The Gold Card, with rewards to reinvest in your business. Earn more bonus points as your spending increases. And now up to 25,000 points. Good for a domestic airline ticket. To apply, visit open.com/free ticket or call 1-800-NOW-OPEN. American Express Open, calling all business owners.
Kevin Harvick, two-time winner here at the Chicagoland Speedway and Sprint Cup Series competition, including winning the inaugural race in 2001.
Actually won the first two races here, 2001 and 2002.
Sure. And Larry, he is 17th fastest overall right now in his Pennzoil Chevrolet for Richard Childress Racing.
You know, I don't know if it's just the time of year coming here. I know we've got an off weekend next weekend before we go to Indy, and then it's 17 in a row. You heard Lindsay talking about a brand new race car. As I walk through the garage here, there are a lot of teams brought brand new race cars here. Cars maybe they've tested at Kentucky or Nashville. Some seeing the racetrack for the first time today.
Kevin Harvick heads to the garage and his crew chief Todd Berrier, and Matt has an update on the 84 of A.J. Allmendinger.
Jimmy Elledge has left the top of the team hauler. They just finished a debrief with A.J. Allmendinger. Now they're going to try to work on the balance, continue in the direction that they're headed. The first run in qualifying trim for A.J. Allmendinger, he said basically the car was extremely loose. They made some changes. Now he says that the front splitter is scraping down in turn one, but it's better through the corner. He just wants to make some small gains on entry where the car is still a tick free and on exit of both 2 and 4, but they are definitely headed in the right direction for Allmendinger. And Larry and Jeff, you guys have been in this situation before, working with a new driver. As far as Jimmy and AJ goes, what's the biggest thing on the first weekend that you guys try to get done is starting to get that chemistry working in the right direction? How do you go about it? What's the biggest thing?
Key thing, Matt, is when you make that first adjustment, make sure it's a positive one. Make sure you address his concerns and get some kind of a change that he can feel. Because if you can do that, then he's got confidence. When I tell him something, he responds.
And I'm sure Jimmy Elledge is glad that we do have that off weekend, because it's learning when AJ says it's loose. Okay, how loose is it?
To what degree?
It won't turn. Well, how much push does it have? Learning, you know, what tendencies he's giving you when he gives you a description of the race car.
Let's go back to Lindsay. Focus on her. If I were you, she's better looking.
We heard that.
Yeah, and you're right.
If I were those guys, I'd have focused on you. You're better looking than I am in the camera.
Okay, so clearly, guys, you can see that things right now in the 20 camp are okay. I feel like you guys are joking a lot. I know they were joking about making you run by putting the cheeseburger up on the toolbox.
Yeah, they told me they needed me to get out pretty quick after this. They're worried about the weather a little bit. It's kind of north of us just enough, but it's going east, but we don't know if it's going to hit or not. So we're trying to get switched over to qualifying trim. So we're all joking around with each other like we normally do.
How much of it for you is a weight lifted off your shoulders just because of the announcement earlier today, because your decision is official?
It's huge. It's it's a bittersweet announcement. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this race team. There's nobody that's unhappy here. We're all, like today, we're all joking around like we always do. It's just, I had an opportunity of a lifetime, in my opinion, to be an owner in this series next year, and that's something I didn't think I could turn away. And having to tell these guys yesterday, that was probably one of the hardest things I've had to do, and one of the hardest discussions I've ever had to have in my life is to tell guys that I've been with for 10 years now that I'm not going to be back next year. But I think I've got their support, and that's what means the most. I mean, at the end of this year, we're all still going to be friends and buddies like we are now, and all the wins are cool, but it's the relationships you build along the way that mean the most, and this is a group of guys that are family to me.
How did you prepare to have that talk?
I couldn't, because I couldn't sleep. I couldn't do anything. You know, you just go in. I mean, it's a group of guys I trust more than anybody. So, you know, you feel comfortable going in there, but you know that you're telling them something that they don't want to hear, and that was the hard part. So you just go in and you speak from the heart. That's the best way to do it.
So moving forward, how is this car here for this weekend? Do you guys feel you can have success?
I think we're all right. Looking at the sheet, there are a lot of guys in qualifying trim that are worried about weather, and then you know, there's a group of us that are in race trim, and we're not bad right now. We're right there with our teammates, and we're all three, I mean, literally right there together. So I think we're in good shape right now. We got a pretty good couple runs there that give us an idea what to do for tomorrow in race trim, and we're switching over for qualifying now, so we'll see in a minute.
All right, Tony Stewart. And guys, by the way, he says he feels 100% healthy.
And you know, so much has been said about this team not winning a race this year. If you go back to last year, this was the first win of his season, and he won 3 out of 4 races after winning here a year ago.
Including where?
The Brickyard.
The Brickyard, yeah. I mean, that'll cure a lot of your ills right there, but you're right about one thing. Tony looks like he is a lot more loose than he's been in the last few weeks, and I talked to Greg Zipadelli, and Greg says, hey, you know, I'm committed to Joe Gibbs Racing. I'm going to be there, and, you know, it is going to be in a relationship, but, you know, Larry, you and I both have been around long enough to know that, you know, you never say never, and in the future, these two guys may get hooked back up, but Greg is committed to Joe Gibbs and J.D. Gibbs and whoever winds up in that seat, if it's Joey Logano or whomever, and I think that his friendship between he and Tony Stewart will endure this separation. I mean, they're that good of friends, and they believe in each other that much. I don't think it's going to be something that will hurt that, but it will be different not being able to say that Stewart and Zipadelli are together next year when you think about that combination on the racetrack.
You know, Tony, you know, he's got a pretty tall mountain to climb, but he basically said in that press conference as we watched Mark Martin in the 8 car out there right now. Mark is 7th quickest. But Tony said that from this point forward, after making this announcement, yeah, there will be a lot of meetings, there will be a lot of decisions, but he is focused on these next 18 races with that 20 car. And I listened to the entire press conference, and the one thing I picked up on, Tony has been a good student of Joe Gibbs because he understands the philosophy. You may think about horsepower, you may think about aerodynamics, you may think about 12-second pit stop, but winning races and winning championships is about your people. It's the people you involve.
Those cars don't build themselves, they don't drive themselves, they don't get to the track by themselves, it's the people.
And Joe Custer, who pretty much is looking after Haas CNC Racing, who does a great job over there, was at the conference with Tony, and Joe said, you know, they've got good people, but they realize they're going to have to pollinate that organization with a lot more good people to get this thing where Tony Stewart wants it to be and needs it to be.
Yeah, they got a lot of work to do. He brought that up during the news conference. We were watching Casey Kane make laps around this race track, and I want to go back right quick. The Mark Martin, a minute ago, he was talking about how bad loose his race car is. They got some serious work to do on it, and here we're watching Brian Vickers in the 83 car. Now, this guy here, currently 6th, put down a pretty good lap just a minute ago. Got that Toyota up here in the top 10.
And he's another one of those guys we keep talking about on the point situation after finishing 11th at the Daytona, talking about Brian Vickers. Right now, he's 15th in the points, but he's only 112 points out of that top 12.
Also saw Casey Kane for a moment. He is 32nd overall. Haas CNC becomes Stewart Haas next season.
Saturday, NASCAR race day rolls into the Windy City.
It's Sweet Home Chicago,
where only one pre-race show can handle the excitement. NASCAR race day, built by the Home Depot. Live coverage begins Saturday, 4:30 Eastern. NASCAR on speed. Be there.
Is the new fuel-injected Yamaha Rhino 700 the world's most reliable workhorse? Or the ultimate off-road explorer? Yes. The
All-new Yamaha Rhino 700 Fi. No matter how you slice it, it's the ultimate side-by-side.
Okay, we're talking about auto insurance with the General. General, you recently streamlined your website so people can get a quote in about 2 minutes, and it's completely anonymous.
That's right. All they do is answer a couple of questions, push the button, and bam! They got their quote. We'll also give them a low down payment and an instant ID card.
It sounds so easy.
Just point and click.
For the best car insurance rates in town, call 877-GENERAL now.
Would you like to dance now?
Yes, I would. This is incredible.
Martin Truex Jr., fastest in his Chevrolet here at Chicagoland Speedway in preparation for the LifeLock.com 400. Sprint Cup team will qualify later tonight here on Speed. That's set for 7:30 Eastern. You see Jason Leffler in yellow. He is 10th overall, not locked into the show. Fastest of the go or go home drivers.
And you know, the other question that was asked of Joe Custer and Tony, would there possibly be some number changes for these cars for next year? And they did not rule out that these cars may not carry different numbers, or at least one of them may carry a different number next year.
You mean like the 14?
Just never know.
A lot of speculation.
Well, Matt, what's going on with that 70?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. There's a lot of speculation about when the weather is going to hit. The spotters on top of the grandstand, they're getting an eyeball look at it, but also looking at it on the radar. They expect this could be Jason Leffler's last qualifying run before the system hits. He said the car, they've made big gains. It's not as tight as it was from center of the corner to exit. They changed the camber. That did help, and they feel like that they're in a pretty good position here, and they look good on the board, currently 10th.
Yeah, they're the fastest of the go home cars. I don't know if we mentioned we have 45 cars here. 2 cars will go home. Right now, the slowest cars in this practice, Tony Raines in the 34 and Johnny Sauter in the 08 car.
37 minutes into this practice, which roughly is scheduled for an hour and a half.
Denny Hamlin, 27th quickest in this 11 car. As Tony Stewart, his teammate, told Lindsay, right now the 3 Joe Gibbs cars, 27th, 28th, and 29th. You know, another thing I keep hearing these guys, heard Clint Boyer a while ago talk about loss of grip, just looking for grip. The tire that Goodyear has brought here, it's different from last year. It's in the direction that a lot of our tire packages have been. It's actually the Texas combination, a combination they will run at Homestead in November. From last year, it's a different or revised construction, the way the sidewall and the tire is made left and right. And then I think where the little bit loss of grip comes, it's a harder compound on the right side, mainly to help tire wear.
Denny Hamlin finished 17th here 1 year ago, 14th the year before that.
You know, I didn't realize, I think because he's only won the one race at Martinsville, but Denny has led a total of 670 laps this year. That's second only to the 900 that his teammate Kyle Busch has led.
Led 381 of them at Richmond.
Yes, he did. He just didn't lead the right one.
Just didn't lead the right one. Sam Hornish Jr. out of Defiance, Ohio, in that 77 car for Penske.
Whoa. I believe he got a little piece of the wall right then, guys. If he didn't, he tried awful hard.
A bit loose off turn 2.
Hearing that a lot here in this practice.
Definitely so, losing the grip. Take a look at that one.
You're in the throttle so much at this place. You're carrying so much speed. You drive almost out of a hole. Car got just a little bit loose right up on the straightaway against the wall.
See, how did they say it, Steve? Missed it by this much. It was close.
Hornish just 39th overall of 45 drivers.
You know, Jeff, the tendency that we're seeing with this new car, it seemed like the complaint last year, a lot at the beginning of this year, won't turn, won't turn, won't turn. I think the teams, they've worked so hard on things with underbody panels, the duct work in the front of the car, geometry. It's almost like now they've got the front stuck pretty decent, but now they're looking for rear grip a lot of places.
It's what we keep hearing is, is trying to almost a little bit loose in and definitely loose off, and not a lot of, complaining about the center part of the corner like they were a year ago. As we take a look at our teammate from trackside, Elliott Sadler,
Another
19 car.
Another bad break for him last Saturday night. Flat tire.
Better off the wall.
I talked to him Monday.
Man, a little bit too tight. Coming to the green. A little bit too tight. Coming to the green.
So that's an indication he's working on a qualifying run.
He just made that qualifying run. He is 6th quickest, Larry.
Up from 20th.
And what he was talking about, coming off turn 4, the car is just bogged down. It won't turn. And as Jeff and I try to point out every week at the 1.5, 2-mile racetracks, turn 3 and 4 is the most important part coming to the green of a qualifying lap because it dictates the speed all the way down the straightaway. But I talked to Elliott Monday morning. He said, Larry, that's the hardest lick that I have taken in a while, blowing that right front tire coming off turn 4.
Larry Juan Pablo Montoya in the 42, 14th overall. This July on Speed, catch the network premiere of Wreck, Life in the Crash Lane. Ride with Chicago's toughest family of towers and find out why cleaning up the mess isn't for the faint of heart. That's next Thursday, 10 Eastern, exclusively on Speed.
Coming July 21st, it's an all-new episode of 101 Cars You Must Drive with the super sporty and super fast.
No tickets for me.
101 Cars You Must Drive with Alonzo Bowden, July 21st, 9 Eastern, only on Speed.
Baltimore's a great place to pick up dance moves, I find. A lot of heel work. Jazz hands, anything with jazz hands. I do the hustle just like you. Geico probably thinks this is easy too.
What your engine feels, you feel. And when it's running clean, you feel it. Which is why Pennzoil Platinum has active cleansing agents to clean out up to 46% of sludge in the first oil change. That's 3 times better than the leading conventional oil. Pennzoil Platinum Motor Oil. Our ultimate clean for your ultimate feeling. Not just oil, Pennzoil.
Pennzoil Platinum, just $3.98 a quart for a limited time at Advance Auto Parts.
More bang for your buck. Get Comcast Digital Voice Local with more calling plan for just $24.95 per month every month. Sign up today and take your number with you. Because the less money you pay, the more you get to keep for yourself. Just call 1-800-COMCAST today. Comcast Digital Voice. It's Comcastic.
Carl Edwards in the number 99 Office Depot Ford Fusion for Roush Fenway Racing. Finished second Saturday night. He is 4th in points for the 7th week in a row.
Now you notice all the signatures on that car. What that is, this paint scheme features the signatures of close to 8,000 Office Depot associates from all over the world. The signatures are actually collected in various languages, countries like Slovakia, Korea, Spain. Office Depot, they serve customers in more than 40 different countries, and there's over 8,000 signatures on that car.
Is any McReynolds on there?
I visit it quite frequently.
Do you?
I used to visit a lot when I was a crew chief because I used to bust clipboards every week.
You talk about Carl. He was actually at one of the Office Depots here locally in Joliet earlier today. But what was so interesting, I was also at an autograph session, and some of the race fans with us said they were there at 5 a.m. to get a wristband so they could get an autograph from Carl Edwards the day before he came to the track.
Whose autograph did you get?
I didn't get any autographs. They came to get mine. Sorry about that.
I see how I did him.
Slid right in there, didn't you?
Jeff Gordon,
To
third.
the green, awesome. There's a bump going into one. There's a lot of what that issue on the bump stops getting in there is. And then
And that's been a complaint for the last 2 or 3 years here. Turn 1 and 2, somewhat down near the bottom of the racetrack, which is where you'll want to be tonight when we have qualifying right in there.
I'm just wondering if it's a little bit of patching right there, if that might be part of the problem.
And these guys are on those shock packers or bump stops, getting the car down on the ground but not bottoming out. And when it hits that, it just upsets the race car when it's sitting down there on those shock packers. But right now, Jeff Gordon, he is third quickest behind Martin Truex Jr. and Jimmy Johnson. And I think there's the patch, Jeff. I think, and also those bumps carry all the way through here as well.
Yeah. And the thing is right now, the good thing about what Jeff did tell Steve Letarte is the car feels good coming to the green, but as I get off down in turn 1, that's where I'm having my problem. So he's carrying that extra speed down through there, and it's upsetting the race car just a little bit. And we know sometimes, from time to time, these drivers are a little bit guilty of holding back just a little bit. So it's good to see that he's made a really hard effort. Now they can probably tweak on that race car and get it right.
But you heard him say how well his car came to the green. 2-lap qualifying session, but I think this is the type of track that you will see these guys are figuring out the money lap will be the first lap. So they want to get through 3 and 4 good to come to take the green.
Clint Boyer in the 07, 13th fastest. We've had 7 different pole sitters here in 7 Chicagoland races. Larry mentioned Jimmy Johnson. He is second fastest overall.
See whether or not he can pick it up a little bit. I mean, Martin Truex Jr. laid down a pretty impressive lap there at a 30.11, and Jimmy's close to him at a 30.16. But be interested to see how much more speed they can get out of this racetrack.
You know, this is one of the very few racetracks left on the Sprint Cup Series schedule that Jimmy Johnson has not won a Sprint Cup Series race, but he won his first and his only Nationwide Series race here back when he was running full-time for the Herzogs.
Yep, standing Randy Herzog, the number 92.
Back in 2001. And, you know, talking about the weather, I actually, outside of turn 3 and 4, are starting to see just a little bit of lightning out there.
Jimmy Johnson holds the track qualifying record here. He did that in July of 2005. 188.147 miles per hour. That's a 28.70. He is quickest now here in practice.
I think these guys are starting to get a little nervous about this weather because I think everyone's going into qualifying trim and we're really starting to see the top of the chart change a lot.
And here's one of the guys that better finds some speed right now. He's 44th on this chart so far. And this is Tony Raines in his 34 car. He has got to qualify on time. So he's got to hope that, number one, it doesn't rain, because if it does, he is one of the cars that will not get an opportunity to race here on Saturday night.
Past the halfway point in this practice, Jimmy Johnson the fastest in a Chevrolet. Reed Sorensen joins the party in the top 5. Tony Stewart, top 10. We'll be right back to Chicagoland here on Speed.
Truckers told us to give him a heck of a truck. He told us not to pull any punches. So we gave them a big engine, big towing, big frame, and big brakes. What'd we get out of it? A big old pat on the back. The 2008 Motor Trend Truck of the Year, Toyota Tundra. The truck that's changing it all.
It's time to turn a small budget into a big difference. It's time to try something new. It's time to dream big while they're still small. It's time to start. The Home Depot. You can do it. We can help.
More questions for Denny Hamlin. Carol Millsaps from Savannah, Tennessee writes, "Hey FedEx, now that Denny's famous for being fast, has that changed him at all?" Well, he has been playing up the whole fast thing just a bit.
4-second six-pack. 2-minute rotisserie. 30-second dog training. Sad.
You might not have been around when he started winning races. You can't go back and follow his first championship season. But now he has to prove himself all over again. And this time, you can be there.
Joey Logano's moving up. Jeff Burton in the 31 car for Richard Childress Racing. Right now he's 15th fastest. Weather threatening here on the north side of the racetrack.
You know, all things normally come to an end, and going into Daytona, Jeff Burton had not finished outside the top 15. He got caught up in that wreck with 20 laps to go, ended up finishing 37th, fell back to 3rd in the points. Lindsay.
Well, you can see Chad Knaus, crew chief for Jimmy Johnson. He was just having a discussion with his driver. Chad's a hometown guy, so he's obviously excited to be here this weekend, but excited that their car right now is on top of the speed charts. I know they've been in qualifying setup for quite some time now, and Jimmy had said that at first the car was a little bit tight, but they've gotten over that, so now they're just trying to iron out some other minor kinks. But guys, also, Jimmy was talking in Washington, D.C. this week. I saw him when he was up there public speaking, and he shared